give you an example here of the workings of this filthy pig, Donald Trump, and his jumping jack racist fascist from South Africa. There's a family in the United States, Texas family. They were on their way to an emergency medical checkup when they were detained at an immigration checkpoint. Here's the story. They were deported to Mexico, this family, before... well, let me back up a little bit. This family that was deported hopes they can find a way to return to the United States and ensure that their 10-year-old daughter, who is a U.S. citizen, can continue her brain cancer treatment. Yeah, that's right, brain cancer. Immigration thugs took her and 4 of her American siblings from Texas when they were deported, when the immigration thugs deported their undocumented parents. Now, this family's ordeal began last month. They were rushing from Rio Grande, where they lived, to Houston, where their daughter's specialist doctors are based, and they were heading that way for an emergency medical checkup. The parents had done this trip at least 5 other times in the past, passing through an immigration checkpoint every time without any issues. That's according to the attorney representing them from the Texas Civil Rights Project. That's a legal advocacy and litigation organization representing the family now. In previous occasions when this family went through checkpoints, the parents showed letters from their doctors and lawyers to the officers at the checkpoint, and they were waved on through. But in early February, the letters weren't enough. When they stopped at the checkpoint, they were arrested after the parents were unable to show legal immigration documents. The mother of these kids, and especially this little 10-year-old girl with brain cancer, the mother spoke exclusively to NBC News, said she tried explaining her daughter's circumstances to the arresting thugs, but, quote, they weren't interested in hearing any of what I had to say, end quote. The attorney said that other than lacking valid immigration status in the U.S., the parents have 0 criminal history. Now, the monstrous son of a bitches with the U.S. Border Protection, ICE, whatever the fuck you call it, under Trump, who detained and deported the family, this group of monsters said in an email, quote, for privacy reasons, we do not comment on individual cases. You fucking bastards, you Nazi Gestapo shits, you. Now, the 10-year-old girl involved in the story was diagnosed with brain cancer last year, underwent surgery to remove the tumor. The mother said, quote, doctors practically gave me no hope of life for her, but thank God she's a miracle, end quote. The swelling on this child's brain is still not fully gone, according to the mother, which is causing this little 10-year-old difficulties in speaking and mobility on the right side of her body. Now, before this family was thrown out of the United States, the girl was routinely checking in with doctors monitoring her recovery. She was attending rehabilitation therapies and taking medication to prevent convulsions. The mother said this, quote, it's a very difficult thing. I don't wish anyone to go through this situation, end quote. The president of the Texas Civil Rights Project said this, quote, what is happening to this family is an absolute tragedy, and it is something that is not isolated to just them. This is part of a pattern in practice that we've seen in the Trump administration, end quote. And this president of the Texas Civil Rights Project added that she knows of multiple other cases concerning mixed status families, where the kids are legal American citizens and the parents are not. But for now, according to the representative from the Civil Rights Project in Texas, this is the only case of this nature that the organization has taken on. Now, Tom Homan, this gruesome-looking Nazi fucker who would fit in perfectly in an extermination camp in Poland in 1942, Tom Homan, the border czar, has said this, quote, "Families can be deported together regardless of status. It's up to the parents to decide whether to depart the U.S. together or leave their children behind." You rotten fucking slimeball, you. I wonder if this Holman beast has children. I wonder how he would feel in the same situation. Now, his quick answer would be, well, I wouldn't be illegally in a different country, Mr. Smartass Malloy. What a son of a bitch. Undocumented parents of U.S.-born children, in other words, citizens of the U.S., if the parents are picked up by immigration authorities, they then immediately face the risk of losing custody of their kids. This is right fucking out of the Nazi playbook. Without a power of attorney document or a guardianship outlining who will take care of the kids left behind, the kids go into God only knows where. Detention, a cage, foster care system, and the fucking bums at the Trump administration, as we learned the last time we went through this shit, don't keep records. They don't give a fuck what happens to children. And because there are no records, that makes it harder for the parents to regain custody of their kids in the future. If they ever do. Think about this. Think of this. I know it's hard. It's hard for me to think of this because I'm a parent. According to this 10-year-old girl's mother, she recalled that when her family was busted this time, and she was told to take her brain cancer recovering child out of the country, get the fuck out of the United States, she recalled understanding that she, quote, could not do anything. I was between a rock and a hard place, end quote. Now, the story that I have is from NBC News, and NBC is withholding the name of the mother and the rest of the family members because they were deported to and dropped off in an area of Mexico that is known for kidnapping U.S. citizens by the bums and fucking punks and Mexican criminals who cluster in these areas to commit their crimes. Now, in addition to the parents and their 10-year-old daughter dealing with brain cancer surgery recovery, 4 of their other children, ages 15, 13, 8, and 6, were also in the car when they were stopped. 4 of these kids were born in the United States. They are U.S. citizens. And according to the mother, as reported by NBC, the whole family was taken to a detention center after they were all arrested, where the mom and daughters were separated from her husband and sons, and she realized she wouldn't be taking her daughter to the doctors. Now, understand something. The mom and the daughters separated from the husband and the sons. I have fucking seen film archival reports of how the Jews who were put on goddamn boxcars and sent to death camps, how they were separated the same fucking way. Boys and men over here, women and girls over here. The mother said, quote, "The fear is horrible. I almost can't explain it, but it's something frustrating, very tough, something you wouldn't wish on anyone." End quote. She added that her sick daughter was laying on a cold floor beneath incandescent lights. And then a few hours later, the family was rounded up again, put in a fucking van, and dropped on the Mexico side of a Texas bridge. And from there, they walked to a nearby shelter where they're now staying. The mother said that safety concerns keep the family up at night, and the children haven't been able to go to school. The 10-year-old daughter and a son who's 15 years old. The son lives with a heart disorder known as long QT syndrome, which causes irregular heartbeats and can be life-threatening if not treated well. They have not received the health care they need in Mexico, according to the mother. And the 15-year-old boy wears a monitor that tracks his heart rate. The mother said, through her tears, quote, "The authorities have my children's lives in their hands," end quote. Both parents arrived in the United States from Mexico in 2013 and settled in Texas, and the mother says they were hoping for a better life for the family. She and her husband both worked a string of different jobs to support their kids. The couple also has a 17-year-old son they left behind in Texas following the family's deportation. And just 2 weeks ago, another undocumented mother in California caring for her 21-year-old daughter, a U.S. citizen undergoing treatment for bone cancer. The mother was detained by immigration authorities and later released under humanitarian parole, but not this family. The human rights attorney with the Texas Civil Rights Project said, quote, "We are calling on the U.S. government to parole the family into the U.S. to correct the harm that they've done and to not do this to anyone else," end quote. This is what's happening in Trump's fascist version of the United States. And if you've been paying attention, you notice that the cuts that this son of a bitch and his jumping fascist Nazi from fucking South Africa, the cuts they're making to government agencies to a great degree involve ending law enforcement agencies, cutting them to the bone, agencies that might get his criminal fucking ass eventually. And also they're cutting things that have to do with health, civil rights, and they call this cost cutting. Bullshit. This is a kind of American Nazism that we are going to let, if we don't stop it, we're going to let this beast out, and it's going to be so difficult to get it back in its cage. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.